What's up everybody, it's Matt from Peter Glenn, and in this video we're going to talk to you about the different board shapes and exactly what they do and which one is the best for you. Let's check this out. When it comes down to it, there's three main shapes when it comes to snowboards. You're gonna have twin, you're gonna have directional, and then you're gonna have a company called Directional Twin. Now, all these shapes are meant to excel in certain conditions and are definitely for different kind of riding styles. But the cool thing about them is they are somewhat adjustable as well. So you can actually take one shape and make it ride similar to another one depending on the overall shape and dimensions of the board. So starting off, we're gonna look at a twin tip board. So this is probably one of the most popular just because it's what most snowboards look like. Most snowboards kind of look like a twin tip board. And it's exactly what it sounds like. Both tips are twin. They're exactly the same. If you take a twin tip board, a true twin board, and you cut it in half, you're gonna have two identical pieces. If you take the board and you cut it in half lengthwise, you're gonna have two identical pieces. Basically, this board is gonna ride the same one way as it does the other. A true twin tip board, if you actually mounted it up with the tail as the nose, it's not gonna ride any different than if you mounted it up properly. Obviously, these are a little bit more for park riders, but there are more and more boards out there in the all mountain and even into the POW boards that are twin tip boards. Now, another one thing you're gonna see are asymmetrical boards, and the asymmetrical boards are basically all twin boards. So back in the day, companies made asymmetrical boards and it was a nightmare. You basically take a board that's fully asymmetrical where one side is different than the other. Now, not only do you have to guess how many people are gonna buy that specific board, how many sizes in each size they're gonna buy, but now you gotta figure out how many people are right foot forward and how many people are left foot forward and make a good guesstimate and make that many boards. So nowadays there are asymmetrical boards, but they are twin tip boards. This name dropper is a great example. This actually is a twin tip asymmetrical board. If you actually look at these pads, you can see that they're actually angled a certain way. Now, the cool thing about these boards is that it's kind of hard to tell the nose from the tail. Most of them have a graphic that goes this way, not this way. Most of the time, your nose is gonna be the graphic if you stand the board up. You know, this one, obviously the goat is kind of sideways and he kind of goes that way. But again, if you're right foot forward, this is the nose. If you're left foot forward, this is the nose. And that's gonna be very, very specific for all of those asymmetrical twins. And what they do is on the Burton one, they actually have a little bit of a core profiling on this one that's actually moving with the bindings a little bit more. And then some other boards, they actually do things where the heel side edge is actually longer or it's got a deeper side cut. And basically what this does, you kind of think about it, if you're on your toes, it's really, really easy to actually drop all your weight on your toes and stay balanced. But if you ever tried standing on your heels and balancing on your heels, go ahead, try it. It's hard. And that's because everything in your body doesn't all of a sudden bend the opposite way. So a lot of these asymmetrical boards, they do that. They give you, again, that longer or that deeper heel side cut to basically give you a little bit of an advantage on your heel side edge. But to be able to sell the boards and to not have to guess how many people are gonna buy the boards and what foot forwards they are, these boards obviously have to be twin. So they are twin tip in the way that they are gonna ride exactly the same that way as they ride that way. The only difference is that you do have to have your toes on your toe side edge and your heels on your heel side edge. All right, and then going from the twin tip board, we're gonna jump right to the directional boards. Now these things are obviously very easy to find. When you look at them, you can see the nose is shaped way different than the tail. We obviously have got a stance where the stance is back here, and there's a lot more length in the nose. Sometimes in these boards, there's even more width in the nose as well. And then obviously when we get to the tail, we've got shorter tails. Sometimes they're narrower tails. The kick is obviously much different too. We've got way more kick in the nose in this thing than we do on the tail. And these are obviously meant to excel riding in one direction. You obviously can take these boards and you can fully ride them switch. That's why they have that little bit of kick on the tail. And even though it's a tiny, tiny little kick, all you need is a little bit just to get it up out of the snow to be able to ride these things switch. Having that stance set back, it actually takes your side cut, and instead of putting it like this, it kind of does this, so you get a little bit more aggressive carves. When you're going into your carve, you're actually gonna get very quick response. And then you're obviously gonna get way more float when you get into deeper snow, because when you've got more nose, whether it's length, width, or a combination of the two, that's gonna wanna get up on top of the snow. And then obviously in the tail, if we take away material, whether it's this way, and or this way, that's gonna wanna sink. So basically directional boards are pretty much those people that really maybe don't ride park that much and they just want a board that's gonna excel in one direction. All right, and then last up we have boards that companies call directional twin. And the term directional twin definitely is kind of weird because obviously if we take a twin tip board and we mess up anything with that, it's gonna be directional. But the reason directional twin is a term is that basically the company started with a twin tip board and they wanted to make it a little bit more versatile. So a lot of your kind of all mountain boards or even some of your park boards that are a little bit more on the all mountain side of things, a lot of these are gonna fall into that category of directional twin. So taking this slightly scary board, but completely awesome. This is a great example. If you look at this board, it looks like a twin tip board. Everything here is the same. The measurements here and the nose, the tail, through the middle of the board, the side cut, everything is centered up on the board. However, directional twins, what they'll do is they'll actually do one, maybe two things. They will do something a little bit different with the kicks, and basically what they can do is kind of give you a little bit more kick in the nose than in the tail. And a great way to actually demonstrate this is actually if you use your hand. Obviously this is my hand, and if you measure across all the way up, let's pretend this is the tip of the snowboard, these dimensions are exactly the same, whether it's the nose or the tail. But if I turn this thing sideways and we do a little bit of a short kick, this would be kind of an over-exaggerated kick of a tail. But now if we took that exact same thing and we made the kick start back here, maybe elongate it a little bit more, now we actually have a different kick in the nose of the board than we do in the tail. Nothing has changed here. That is still twin from one end to the other, but it's just where the board starts to kick. Whether it starts to kick here or wherever, that's a way that they can actually make it a directional twin. And what that does, it just gives you a little bit more float, helps you a little bit more in one direction, but that board is still centered up and you can still make it feel like a twin tip board when you put it on edge. Now, another thing that they do, which you're gonna see a little bit more in most of the directional twin boards, is they're actually gonna take the stance and they're gonna set it back. Now again, this board basically take a fully twin tip board, but instead of drilling the holes directly in the center, so this and this are exactly the same, this board is actually set back about a centimeter. So there's about a centimeter more nose than there is tail. So the cool thing with that is it's obviously gonna help you in one way where we're gonna get in a little bit of nose for that float. But the other thing is just like with the directional boards, it's gonna take that centered up side cut and it's actually gonna make it feel like it's this, like there's a little bit more side cut up in the nose. Now this actually does two things. It obviously makes those turns a little bit more aggressive. It kind of gives you a little bit more dig when you want to go into your turn, and it makes it a little bit easier on the exit. But when you take this thing and you flip it around and ride it switch, now it's going to have an easy entry into your turns when you're riding switch, and the back is actually going to want to push you into those turns. So the cool thing is it can actually help teach you to ride switch a little bit more, and actually can be a little bit more of an advantage when you're riding switch. Now, if you're somebody that rides switch half the time and you're very, very good at it, you're probably not going to need that. But again, it is there. Now, the cool thing with these boards, obviously you can take a directional twin board, and if you know that the stance is set back 1 centimeter, now we can just move the stance forward 1 centimeter and you're centered up, and that board's gonna feel like a twin tip board. If it just has a little bit more kick in the nose, there's no reason to do that, because when you're riding on flat snow, the only thing that matters is side cut. But again, that's why the directional twin name exists, is because it's basically taking a twin tip board and we're making it slightly directional, not going full on directional like a traditional directional board. So as you can see, the shape of the board is definitely a very, very important thing. Traditionally, more of your park riders are gonna be riding those twin tip boards. Traditionally, more of your free riders are gonna be riding those directional boards. And definitely when you get into the POW, you want a really, really big directional board. And then obviously your all mountain riders, you can kind of go either way. But if you got any questions beyond anything that we talked about in the video, definitely leave some comments down below. We're on there every single day trying to answer your questions. We wanna make sure we can get you into some rad gear, but most importantly, we wanna make sure you can actually find the shape that's right for you and your riding style. Also make sure to like, subscribe, and definitely get that bell on too so you can find out when all the new videos drop. Grab yourself a new board, whether it's a twin, directional, or right in between, and get out and ride. Because any day of riding is a good day of riding.